If ye stay not the hand of the oppressor, if ye fail to safeguard the rights of the downtrodden, what right have ye then to vaunt yourselves among men? Baha'u'llah. At this time and age, autocratic government is impossible, for it causes a myriad of problems for the people, and it utterly precludes the tranquility of the soul and the health of consciousness. Likewise, it is contrary to the peace of the government, as well as the well-being and welfare of the people. Abdu'l-Baha. This week, we are so excited to have Dr. Habib Riazati speaking on the root causes of totalitarianism and its remedies according to the Baha'i writings. Dr. Riazati has been a scientist and strategist at Boeing Defense Integrated Systems for the last 38 years. He has also been a psychotherapist with a PhD in clinical psychology for the past 17 years, with a private practice called Integrative Counseling LLC. He is the founder of the Human in the Making Foundation, a nonprofit organization aiming at motivating and empowering the individuals to actualize their hidden noble potentials, enriching families and communities, and enable them to develop social interests, offer unconditional services to their fellow humans, and continuously engage in abolishing human rights violations and abuses. Moreover, he is the coordinator of the Ocean of Lights website, the repository of the Baha'i writings, categorized based on tablets and primary scholarly sources. He is also the author of 3 volumes of work on fundamental verities and progressive revelation, and is the program director of the television program Danesh Binesh Azadi. And with that, I'll hand it off to Dr. Riazati.
Hello, greetings, aloha to all of you, and thank you very much for allowing me to be at your service today. The topic which we are trying to address is gaining momentum throughout the world, as you yourself have witnessed. To start with, I would like to give you a definition of what really totalitarianism means and what are the signs of it, what are the causes of it, the root cause, and the most importantly, what are the remedies as has been outlined in the Baha'i writings, especially the writings of the central figures, meaning Bab, Baha'u'llah, and Abdul Baha. Due to the shortage of time, I will try to give you some hints that after the session you can go and study yourself and investigate this very important topic. Totalitarianism is a terminology that is referred to the political system that is not only dictatorship, rather it tries and it is aims at controlling every aspect of human life of the individual. That is to say that it does not discriminate between what areas belongs to this government, what areas belong to the individual rights and freedoms. In fact, individual rights and freedoms simply within these organizations are determined by how much individual follows and abides by the system that its aim is to control. The example of these systems have been identified as the ones in Germany, Nazism by Hitler, has been also Mussolini, and at this very moment, many of the superpowers of the world are trying to uh, follow that system of thinking. The person who wrote greatly about this phenomena, political phenomena, is Hannah Arendt. Hannah Arendt has a book called The Origin of Totalitarianism, which I highly recommend that you read it. Hannah Arendt identifies in this book, which is widely used by the students of politics and those who want to understand how the dictatorship uh, will turn into totalitarianism. Uh, and some of the symptoms that you can identify this system of power is that through propaganda, through control of the media, through banning books of any types that does not confirm to their own ideology. Another symptoms is or tactics is to create fear and dependency in people. They try to create fear through surveillance of the individual activities. They try to ban free speech at all levels. Freedom of thoughts is not welcomed. So this is a very, very unique system of governing, which without me entering into any political system that currently available in the world, you can see the signs of it in China, you can see it in North Korea, you can see it in Iran, and it appears as in the Western countries they are emerging towards that way of governing. Uh, so you at least briefly you notice that no system of governing is more dangerous than to have this dictatorship turns into totalitarianism. Why they call it totalitarianism? Because it governs the totality of the activity, totality of society, and reduces the individual to an ashes, which doesn't have any desire to live. It also, because of creating the fear and dependency on the system, creates mistrust among people themselves, among family, because of the surveillances that exist by this system of governing. Media, uh, newspaper of any type is also has to abide, but whatever is the wishes of the system, and so on. So, what should we do? What is Hannah Arendt suggest? and whether those suggestions are practical, and how do those suggestions is viewed by Bob, Baha'u'llah, and Abdul Baha. Hannah Arendt says the main and heart of the problem is lack of thinking on part of the individual. It says when the society does not think or think critically, critical thinking, and ask questions and holds the governing bodies at a local levels all the way to the national levels of any country responsible for their behaviors, this system will increase day by day. Why? Hannah Arendt states what she clearly describes as the means and the ends do not have to necessarily be ethical or moral in this governing system. That means what Machiavelli in Prince said is actually used, which end justifies the means. If the end is to control, if the end is to win, is the end is to stay in power, then everything goes. So morality and ethics simply means control, means if we have to stay in power, we can kill, we can bribe, we can rob, and we can be kind. That is Machiavellian techniques that is used throughout the world in politics and also in business, corporate world. So how do we resolve it? Well, the first and the foremost, according to the Bab and Baha'u'llah, is to recognize the station of man. Man, human rather, who is this being? Is it a miserable, dependent, weak creature? Or is potentially noble, able, and if he or she uses the best gift that has been given to him or her, which is wisdom, which is mind, which is kharat in the original, then that person can analyze things, can question, and can choose. Hannah Arendt and Abdul Baha and Baha'u'llah highly rely on the individual transformation in order to change any political system which is inhuman. To give you some examples, individual, society, and the governing bodies, they work hand in hand. That is to say, like Jean-Jacques Rousseau in his famous work, Social Contract, mentioned, if the society as a whole is intelligent, is able to discern is able to do a critical thinking, it comes with a norm and the laws that would not allow a self-centered or those individuals who use power to control to even make it to the seat of power. Please pay attention. That is to say, even the people such as Immanuel Kant, 60 some years before the Bab, mentioned that if you want any type of change, any type of perpetual peace, you need to change individual. Individual means, according to Kant, to be the person who can think on his own, can feel on his own, and most importantly, can understand that he or she is a part of a world of humanity. This is why Kant says, unless you consider humankind as a whole, you never can really see a perpetual peace. So we are talking about individual. Individual has to be enlightened, has to read books, had to read articles. These are some things that Abdul Baha Abbas, the son of Baha'u'llah, recommends when he is on his travel. Also, you can see it in Secret of Divine Civilization, that he emphasizes education, and education should be holistic education. And this holistic education should not be a biased education. So Baha'u'llah finds the remedy not in opposing the governments, not to engage in unethical acts, not to try to create a group that can throw out the government. Baha'u'llah, Hannah Arendt, the true political scientists, they say it does not work because the remedy is for the individual to really become individual. The word individual, as you assuredly know, and in psychology is used greatly, composed of two parts, IN, divide. Individual means not dividable. Individual means that my mind, my heart, my belief system, my aims are all in harmony and synchronizing with each other. Baha'u'llah's aim, in my humble opinion, based on some of his writings, those that are published, you can see in Lawh Maqsood, and you can see in Lawh Dunya, Tablet of the World, and Lawh Maqsood. Both of them are published in writings of Baha'u'llah after the Kitab Aqdas. You will see that Baha'u'llah says the purpose of this revelation is to create individuals that are independent thinkers, that their heart, their minds, their belief system, their aims are in harmony. In fact, Baha'u'llah has a message for the person who does not succeed. He says, be a infidel, but don't be hypocrite. Hypocrisy here simply means that you do not have synchronicity, unity between your heart, your mind, your feelings, your objectives, your actions. And the further they become apart, psychologists such as Jung, such as Adler, such as Freud, they say it creates fear in you because you are divided and therefore you can be controlled by others, you can be manipulated by others. And Baha'u'llah says we have to change the culture of fear to the culture of love, and that requires individual transformation, enlightenment, and trying to create a harmony and synchronicity between and within the individual. Because unless they do that, they become the target of the system that can manipulate them. Please pay attention how deep this dialogue could become. So if you want to change the world, change the individual. Change the individual means to transform the individual. Transform the individual simply means, who am I? Where am I going? How I am going to go there? And how am I going to get there? And also, in order to be individual that cannot be manipulated, you have to believe in ethics and morality. Morality here is not to do this or not to do that. You have morality and ethics as Spinoza, which I highly recommend that you read it, because that book also caused enlightenment, that the church would not abuse, politicians would not abuse their power. Ethics by Spinoza, very, very important work that said that individual has to think, individual has to analyze, individual has to be honest. And Immanuel Kant, who was moved by Spinoza's ethics, tried to mention that ethical system is that system which benefits the whole world and not a particular group or a nation. So as you can see, fundamentally, the dictatorial systems, which then becomes totalitarian regimes, they actually trying to make the individual to not even exist. They are just the numbers that can justify the power that they have. So that is one aspect, that individual has to grow. An individual, according to Bob in Persian Bayan, has to think because the problem that humanity is facing is because of lack of critical thinking. It's very interesting that Bob emphasizes that. It is important to know that Muhammad, before Bob mentions that 1 hour of thinking is better than 70 years of pious worship. So God has not created us to do simply worship, which is habitual practice, but do not understand the wisdom of it. This is why Abdul Baha, Baha'u'llah, they try to remind us that the purpose of the Baha'i revelation is not to create individuals who are just robots. They are just following. Rather, Baha'u'llah mentions in one of the tablets that is published in Persian in Ma'idiyya Asmani, volume 4, he says the purpose of my revelation is to unravel those hidden treasures that are hidden within every created person. So that is a highly respectful phenomena. He even further explains that I have not come to create the mere codes of laws. Nay, I use the laws in order to facilitate unraveling those treasures that are within every individual. You can see that alluded in Agdas, paragraph 5. You can see it in Loh Maqsood. You can see Abdul Baha Abbas in Secret of Divine Civilization. In fact, when he speaks of holistic education, means holistic, means that it is like a system. It has to address your physical, your mental, and your spiritual needs to grow. And perhaps Baha'u'llah, Hannah Arendt, Kant, people such as Russell, Albert Einstein, they believe that unless individuals do that, they always become the victim of manipulation by the organizations, whether that organization is religious or political. That is, therefore, one point that I want to get across. If you want to change any system, change the individual within that system. Gandhi did it when he even says, if you want to see the world the way that you like it to be, then you be the agent of the change that you want to see. Now, freedom of thoughts, freedom of expression is very much helps to deal with the dictatorship of any time, manipulation of any type. Read various articles about the same subject. Do not try to be an idol worshiper. Do not worship personalities. This is another prime characteristic of a dictatorship and totalitarian system of governing. Personage becomes important, and the name of the leader becomes important. And these are all creates dependency and reduces individual to a robot that has no choice but to do what is being told. So far, I underline the importance of education, system of education. I underline line the importance of free thinking. Free thinking means that you have to read yourself. You should not rely on somebody else. You should not quote somebody else. You should see it with your own eyes, hear it with your own ears, and feel it with your own heart. And whether you believe it or not, both Hannah Arendt and Baha'u'llah, they underline the importance of these behaviors and its impact in creating justice. In fact, Baha'u'llah in Hidden Words number 2, he specifies justice in an individual at the individual level to be see with your own eyes, hear with your own ears, and so forth. And he says that that is the best gift that he has given us. And you do not know how much that particular paragraph will help us not to be the victim of the system which tries to belittle us, reduces us, and makes us dependent. Now, also, I underline lack of worship of personalities. Do you know Baha'u'llah and Bob have warned us about this? The warning that they have. Bob in Persian Bayan states that do not look at me, do not look at who talks, who gives you the message, rather just look at the message and try to deal with it. He says if you look at the person of the manifestation, even he is the one who is born, who eats, who has pain, and he eventually leaves this world. But you have to consider the message that he conveys, the books that he has revealed, and you have to read it for yourself. I see this passage in Persian Bayan to help me to understand that if Bob, he says, take away your attention from Ali Muhammad, rather concentrate on the message that Ali Muhammad gives you, then if you really adopt that way of thinking, do you rely on anybody else just simply because of his position, because of his station? Look at it. Or when Baha'u'llah has warned us that one of the barriers to a happy life in this world is attachment to the kingdom of names, personalities. And you know that personalities can manipulate you, can create dependency in you. You can have a very, very distracted, conflicted meanings of the terms such as love. Under the guise of love, your partner can abuse you, can reduce you to an ashes. I deal with it every day in the field of psychology, that look at the dynamic between the abusers and the victims. There is a love relationship between the victim and the victimizer. And these are the dynamics that Baha'u'llah, Bab, Abdul Baha, and the true philosophers try to warn us, and true psychologists. I highly recommend reading Jung when he talks in a work which is called Undiscovered Self, that he encourages us to know thyself, discover your true self, which is a very universal self, a self that does not have any prejudice, the self that does not follow anybody, just follows the truth. And truth is something which is beneficial for every created being. Einstein, when he said that is the only way to change the governments that are abusive, the system of politics or finances or religious. That is, I believe, is called holistic education. Another thing which is very, very highly important, Baha'u'llah mentions it, Bob underlines it in its importance. Teach your children to be moral and ethical. In fact, we are not supposed to teach our children about this system of thinking or that system of thinking or our system of thinking and belief system. This is not our job. Our job is to teach the children, even before the age of 5, how to think. Teach them to be moral, to be ethical. Teach them human virtues. Do not teach them about ideologies. They need to investigate the ideologies. The reason that the people become the victim of this abusive system of politics is because they follow ideologies which they have not chosen on their own. If you teach them ethics and morality and humanism, Baha'u'llah, who in a tablet which is in compilation called Ishraqat, page 40, he says, to become human is my ultimate aim in this world. He even addressing his own self, he says to his follower that, please, when you come to me, do not bow, do not ask me for forgiveness. He says, I am just a servant of God. Please pay attention. You are talking about Baha'u'llah, because his intention was for us to pay attention to the message, not to the messenger, to be the follower of the light, not the lamps. If we teach this type of thinking, critical thinking, and morality, so please see, two pillars are needed to combat any type of control which is not which is inhuman. One is morality and ethics, which is universal. It is not regional. It is not depending on if you're a Muslim, Bahá'í, Christian. No. Ethics means whether you're a Muslim, you're a Bahá'í, you have to be first doing something which is human. This is why Bahá'í Faith even is not defined based on the ideology, rather based on the transformation to become the embodiment of human virtues. If you teach that to the children and the youth, and also teach them critical thinking. Because if they do not have critical thinking, they can be target of abuse. They can be contributor to the fundamentalism and extremism. I encourage you highly to read a book by Bahá'í Nakhjavani, asking question, a challenge to fundamentalism. This book is in English. It is highly recommended by a non-Baha'is, by the free thinkers, by those who want to make change in the world. Please pay attention to all this. Power also will be redefined. Do you know Baha'u'llah has a tablet called Loh Salman, which I believe it is partially translated by beloved Shoghi Effendi in gleanings from writings of Baha'u'llah. You can see its entire tablet on the Ocean of Lights under the best known works of Baha'u'llah. He says one of the signs of maturity of humankind is that the seat of power is vacant and no one dare to approach it unless and until someone comes for the service of humanity, accepts this responsibility. Please pay attention. Power for the true political scientists, for true religious organizations, doesn't mean to control, doesn't mean to become rich. Power is a means to serve. So this is why one of the signs of maturity of humankind. What does that mean? Because unless humankind is mature, then it can be manipulated by the organizations, whether religious, whether political, whether corporate, and then they lose their identity. And they, according to Jung, in an undiscovered self, he says they will be reduced to zero. And then Jung warns and says if you have thousands of zeros next to one another, when you add them together, they become zeros. And this is what those regimes want, zero. Therefore, we need to become one. We need to become unique. You may not believe it, but potentially each one of us can be a Plato, can be Gandhi, can be Tahere. We should not always glorify in the people of the past. No, we should be the ones that the world needs. We need to create cons with the morality, with ethics, with clarity of vision. And another point, power, therefore. Power is in the hand of individual that elects. It is very important. None of these leaders simply become leaders by their own. How can you manipulate 200 million, 65 million? How? No, they are individuals, are persons. They mostly are self-centered. They are narcissists mostly. But they are smart, intelligent also. When you are narcissist, self-centered, and you are intelligent, that is a good recipe for control. And look at it. How do you change it? Arnett, read that book, Origin of Totalitarianism. Read it, you will see how the people, contemporaries of the Baha'i figures, they actually come to the same conclusion, that individual needs to vote. How do we vote? Rezvan is coming out. How do you elect representative? Do you really investigate them? Do you actually look at their visions? Do you know them personally as Shoghi Afandi outlines? What is important for you when you elect? Do you think that you, on one hand, say the youth can move the world, but when it comes to electing, you say, well, these people who have been there for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, they are good. Why should we change them? When you change the member of an organization or a board, whether religious or non-religious, does it mean that you change them because the old people are bad? No. See, this type of insight should be generated. We need people, according to Abdul Baha Abbas in Secret of Divine Civilization, who understands, who know how to resolve conflicts, conflict resolution skills. Do we consider all of these when we elect them? Now, another thing which is very much helpful, I want to know how many more minutes do I have? If you don't say anything, I continue.
Well,
Give
we
me
have about
15
till like
minutes.
1:30 to answer questions. So whenever you want to finish,
Okay.
it depends how many
What,
questions you want to take.
what time is it right now? I am
It's
9:40.
12:47.
Okay, so give me 15 minutes. Can you?
Yeah.
Thank you. See, this is a very good organization. It is not totalitarian. And she is nice to me because she is trying to be a psychiatrist. Now, so power is important. Election is important. To know them. Term limits is important. See, some people want to even change the term limit that are in constitutions. Is it about individual? If the affairs of a society depends on only one person or one group of people, do you think that society is a very motivational society? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because when you have different individuals of different opinions gather around one table, they can bring different perspective. As long as their intention is pure and their object, aim is the unity, prosperity of humankind as a whole, then you will see the power of these leaders will turn into ashes. I also want to warn you something that Hannah Arendt warned us. He says, don't think that the people who become leaders, they are not educated. Look at what happened to the Jews. Look at what happened under Hitler. Hitler's best performers who abide by his commands were the ones who were well educated. They were doctors, they were engineers, they were scientists. This is why holistic education is that the most fundamental education is to understand why do you go to a school? Why do you become engineer? Your objective is not to become rich only. No, richness is a means to serve. Those people were doctors, were engineers, were smart people, but they did not have the moral compass to use their knowledge in order to serve humanity. The pain and suffering of humanity didn't mean anything. I do not want to go into the psychological dynamic of what happens when you lose your moral and ethical compass. And please pay attention. These moral and ethical compass are not regional or depends on to ideology. As a human being, we are obligated to think about others because we are one system. Read works by Bertrand Russell, by John Dewey. He says that why do you fight? You are all one species, spiritually one being. He says, Jung, he says, when you have pain, the whole world has pain. If you create joy, the whole world benefits from it. They call it the law of synchronicity. So as you can see, voting, critical thinking, morality, definition of power, all of these things, when it is embodied in a universal curriculum of education, then the people become more enabled, more empowered, and less possible for anybody to abuse them. So it's not by changing regime necessarily that you can create prosperity, because the solution comes from the bottom, not from the top. Please pay attention. In the Bahá'í Faith, when they emphasize maturation of the local and national and regional spiritual assemblies, or if you are not a Baha'i attending religious institution, how the institution becomes mature. What do you mean by institution becomes mature? How can an institution be mature and I am supposed to abide by their commands? How is it? See, critical thinking here helps you. What do you mean? Doesn't bear some kind of thoughts to say, what does maturity means? How is individual has to become mature, that the community becomes mature, then they elect the mature representatives. Please pay attention. So the Baha'u'llah sees the grassroots responsible for most of the problems that happens on the top. Whether it is in religion, whether it is in corporate, whether it is politics. And please forgive me, at this time, these three, in most cases, are interdependent. Politics, economy, ideology are used sometimes to control masses. So the masses has to emerge from the stage of imposed immaturity. Why I call it imposed? Because he has selected that. Kant was right. He says Kant was the one who said, do not just call everybody enlightened. He says enlightened. Do you know again that word enlighten means the light which you have within yourself. And Baha'u'llah wants people to become enlightened. I have created you rich. I have created you noble. And then in that hidden word, at the end, he says, turn thy eyes unto thine own self, that you find me, means that holistic power, that God, that energy, whatever you may call it. I am not here to defend one way or another, but please pay attention. The world is going to go through this abusive methodology. And the only way to change it is to reflect, to ask questions, to look at our own selves. If you are 50, if you are 60, if you are 70, it really doesn't matter. Ask yourself, do you really know yourself? Have you studied your ideology? Or because your parents were this or that, you uphold the same thing? Is the sources of your information about your religion or your governing bodies are through social media? Or you have actually read their own works? If you say, Abdul Baha, have you read his writing? Do you know what is his views? Or you just love him without understanding? Isn't Baha'u'llah in Kitab Aqdas? He looks at recognition, irfan, as the first step to any other action, even obedience. What does irfan mean? Recognition. Recognition of what? Recognition of truth. Recognition of universal truths. Please pay attention. We need to change the way we look at the world, especially if we are Baha'is, because we are claiming we have the remedy. What is a remedy if the practice is not changed? If the individual initiatives are not being respected or initiated? Please pay attention to this thing. We are the ones that help our governing bodies to govern right. It is very important. This is why we should not blame or criticize the leaders, that you try to attack them or to backbite about them. These are the old system. No, if the system doesn't work, you make a change. You make the amendment. If you have a question, write to the Supreme Body, write to the National, have a dialogue with them. Remember, we are all are serving one truth, and that truth is the well-being of humankind. Baha'u'llah does not belong to the Baha'is. Baha'is are trying to belong to the vision of Baha'u'llah. Baha'u'llah belongs to the entire universe, because Baha'u'llah is not a person. Baha'u'llah is a reality. Do not confuse Mirza Hussain Ali Muhammad, the son of Mary, to be Baha'u'llah. No, they are person. This is why you pay attention to them. You actually miss the ball. Read some answer question by Abdul Baha Abbas. He says there are two types of people. There are some intelligent people and lovers who they follow the light. And there are some who follow the lamps. And he even gives an example. He says there are some people who follow Muhammad, Moses, Jesus. No, I add to it Bab, Baha'u'llah, Mirza Hussain Ali. He says these people are lost. But there are some people who follow the light which shines within them. Then they see that there is no difference between them. They see that they have only one message. And then they realize that the science, art, and technology. They are all by the same source. So, conclusion, these governments can change. These ideologies can change, but not on their own. We need to move. We doesn't mean community. Community is made of individuals. You do not want a community of zeros. You want a community of ones. Each one has an idea to rebuild the system. Try to read different books. See how much I am emphasizing. If you read one book of the Baha'is, read 10 books of non-Baha'is. Why, Habibullah, what is this? You are not a good Baha'i. I know I'm not a good Baha'i. But at least you learn from something from a person who is not a good Baha'i. Didn't you remember what Abdul Baha quoted Jesus? Although that statement is not in the Bible, but it worth attention. When Jesus and his follower, they were passing a dog. Do you remember? That German Shepherd was done. It was dead. Some people said, "Oh wow, what a bad smell! Why?" Abdul Baha said, "Look at his white teeth." No, you consider me not a good Baha'i because I tell you to read other books. Read the books that actually widen your vision. Try to show you what are the problems, and then do not try to be a Bible answer man. I have all the answer, I go to the society. No, listen to the house. Culture of learning. Learn from them. Go with the attitude of learning, not imposing, not teaching. Teaching means sharing. These practices, along with building your family, your own family, how you teach your children to think, what is their vision in life. Every psychologist can tell you that if the child by the age of 5 doesn't have these qualities of critical thinking, holistic view of humankind, no matter what he or she does, she will be a handicap and can be easily a victim of abuse by the systems. So, conclusion. When one regime wants to control all aspects of human life, that is dangerous. That is disaster. No, we believe in freedom. Yes, we also believe in dignity. Yes, we believe in freedom of expression, but we do not sanction every action. Freedom of action has to be measured within what is beneficial for the whole community or whole society. So in short, we are the one who choose leaders. So if you look at this statement of Baha'u'llah, I think it says it all. Do you know, right now in Iran, religious organizations are creating the sufferings of everyone, not only Baha'is. Baha'is are a prime target because they undermine their inhuman practices. But please pay attention. I don't think any of you as a Baha'i disagree with me that none of us have suffered as much as Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha suffered personally. What is their view about changing the system? Is propaganda? Is to curse them? If just wait and say, oh God, please change them. God didn't know, you remind him, right? You remind him, Mr. God, please, if you have forgotten, do you know in Iran we are suffering, in America we are suffering, please change it, please, please, please. Is this the way you run the world? But see, what does Baha'u'llah says? Baha'u'llah says, if you look at the system, especially he looks at clergies. He says when you look at on the surface, superficially, you find religious leaders to be the cause of all unhappiness for the community. But he says if you think and observe things deeply, critically, you see that those religious leaders are not to blame, are the people who actually are not educated, are not able. In order to maintain the accuracy, I am quoting the original. اگر به ظاهر بنگری حضرات علما سبب اغفال عبادند. If you just look at on surface, you take clergies cause these abuses in the church. Clergies caused Spinoza to suffer, caused Galileo to suffer. These clergies and political leaders caused Socrates to suffer. Baha'u'llah says, but that is a superficial thinking. Don't think changing clergy with somebody else will remedy it. He says, no. اگر به ظاهر بنگری حضرات علما سبب اغفال عبادند ولکن اگر فی الحقیقه ناظر باشی, if you really look at the reality with the insightful eyes, اگر فی الحقیقه ناظر باشی ملاحظه نمایی که این عباد است که سبب غفلت علما گشته است. He says it otherwise. He says, you in fact have caused them to come. You actually caused them to be ignorant. Wow, look at it. Hannah Arnett, Baha'u'llah, they say change the bottom. Don't look at the top, because the power is in the hand of community, and the community's power emerges from the power of the individual. We need individuals who are enlightened, who are critical thinkers, who have a good moral compass, and they look at power as an avenue of service. And everybody has a power. Power is not only financial. Power is spiritual, is mental, and intentional. Please forgive me for this lengthy presentation.
Thank you so much for that wonderful talk. Now we have time for a few questions and answers. So you can just put them in the chat and I will read them in the order received. So the first question is, why do some people become independent thinkers and some don't?
Well, I think I have addressed it, but I say it again to remind myself. Why some people are this way or that way depends on their background, depends on the level of education during childhood. By education, you have to know that to educate means to draw out. You don't go to a school to become someone that you are not. You are a mine full of gems. Baha'u'llah Maqsood, Kant, in his writings. Look at the Critic of Pure Reason, his major work. Individual is full of energy, full of power. So when during the childhood, educational systems are such that encourages that young person to think independently, rather than to tell them, do you not recognize Baha'u'llah? You say, investigate Baha'u'llah. Rather than saying, Bahá'í Faith is the best, teach them that Baha'u'llah says, do not try to prefer anything above anything else. Just find something which is suitable for the whole humanity. And why some people become independent? Because they choose to become independent. How? They think on their own. They feel on their own. They act on their own. And they act not based on fear. They act based on duty as a human being. They have a courage that whatever they hear, they analyze and they see something which is not right. What is not right? That which does not benefit humanity. Then they say, no, we are not going to do it. Please pay attention to one statement of Baha'u'llah. Do you know Baha'u'llah has many writings? In one of his works, he says the central processing, that message that is a pivot, as Shoghi Effendi says in the Volder of Baha'u'llah, of all Baha'i writings is the unity of humankind. Now, anything that you read from Baha'u'llah, anything that you read from Abdul Baha, Shoghi Effendi, anybody, if it in any way, shape or form violates the unity of humankind, you have to know, according to Baha'u'llah, you have misunderstood the passage. This is why. Read the letters of the house. But when you read it, ask, okay, how does it serve humanity as a whole? It does not have to serve Baha'is only. The House of Justice primarily is responsible for the Baha'is, because that is where has to maintain the integrity of the community, but is responsible for the world. So when you read these messages, when you read these letters, when you read the messages from your institutions, ask yourself, where are they going? Where am I going? How are we going? How does it serve the ultimate goal? This type of thinking will distinguish you from another individual. Because some people are like a sheep. They just follow. And those organizations that try to yearn for power, hold the power, love sheep mentality. But listen to Abdul Baha. Be pure, but be wise. Be pure like a dove, but be intelligent. With purity, that means that your aim towards human race moves. And with intelligence, you find the ways to make sure to uphold the integrity of the way you think and the way you act. So you have to ask yourself this question that you asked me. Are you really believe in what you really profess? How did you come to believe it? How do you know your parents didn't make a mistake in their belief system? Have you investigated them? Doesn't Baha'u'llah says, assuming the whole world accepts me, what does that have to do with you? Maybe the whole world is making a mistake. Or if the whole world opposes him, that doesn't mean you have to oppose him. You have to read. You have to read with an open eye. You have to read with questions, read gleanings, ask him questions. Hey, Baha'u'llah, why you say that? And then from this tablet, you go to the next tablet, and that tablet to this tablet. Then you can see that your day changes. Why do you think he says, read my writings every morn and every eve, and please pay attention. He says, whosoever doesn't do it, he has not fulfilled his covenant. Don't you think that is a way to make you enlightened? Doesn't make you a victim? Doesn't make you a lamb? Doesn't make you an idol worshiper? No. Baha'u'llah wants you to read, that you understand what's going on. Ask him questions. Why not? Doesn't Baha'u'llah write it or answer to questions? If somebody comes and says, I really do not have any question, do you think, wow, what a nice person. Why? He is so pure. What do you mean you do not have any question? The whole life is about question. You have to ask question, but you have to be very careful about answers. Answers doesn't mean finished. Answer means I have to ask a better question now, more wider question, more comprehensive question. So as you can see, these distinctive features help us to become a better individual, better community member, and truly we reach to a stage that individual, community, and institutions at all levels, they work together towards rebuilding the world order. Last but not the least, I highly recommend reading Shoghi Effendi. Please pay attention. Even if you are not a Baha'i, read Shoghi Effendi, who is a successor of Abdul Baha Abbas. I believe if you do not know Shoghi Effendi, you can take the revelation of Baha'u'llah upside down. Read the 7 letters in a world order of Baha'u'llah to understand that institutions are the means, not the end. Institutions are the channel for serving humanity and not the means of control. These are the distinctive features. Even Guardian, in these letters, gives the title, the distinctive feature of the Baha'i institution. So as you can see, the more you read, the more you comprehend, the more you analyze, the more you correlate, the better you can distinguish yourself as a human being. I recommend highly reading the works of Alfred North Whitehead. Alfred North Whitehead, educator, a scientist. He has written a book. One of them is Process and Reality. Another one, Human in the Making, which is the causes religion in the making. His book, Religion in the Making. I use this work to actually create a foundation, human in the making foundation. We try to become a human. You never say, I'm a Baha'i. Oh, that is a bad thing. You are becoming a Baha'i. Because Baha'i, to be a Baha'i is a process of humanism, is a process of your tomorrow better than today in terms of humanism, not in terms of being better than somebody else. You never want to be better or worse than somebody else. You want to just to be an exemplar of humanism. Sorry for saying that. You want to be like Abdul Baha want us to be. Abdul Baha of our own, at our own level. Be an example. But also consider that we failing. We are human. We fail. And we have to learn from that dog story to look at the good of the people, regardless of who they are. If the clergy says something which is useful, you just honor it. Honor the word. Honor the objective. These are the way to become a better human being. Next.
We have time for one last question. It says, how can I reconcile the desire to stay informed about world conditions and its peoples on the one hand, and detachment from the world and its peoples on the other?
Okay, detachment. Attachment, detachment. Oh my God. Who told you to be attached or detached? Let's see. Baha'u'llah. Be in the world, but not be of the world. Baha'u'llah, Lohe Dunya, Tablet of the World, after Kitab Aqdas. Everything which is in this world is so good. But as long as it does not define you, these are a means, not the ends. The world is a good thing. Do you know many people who have gone to the next world? No, we are assuming that we understand what this next world is. But many of them want to come back here to do some service. Baha'u'llah says that. Why? What do you mean detachment then? Baha'u'llah. Detach from three things. Detachment from this world, detachment from next world, detachment from kingdom of names. What do you mean, Baha'u'llah? Then what do I have to leave for? I'm doing all of these good things in order for me to go to heaven next time. I'm going to go. I want to do all of these good things. And then where are you going? After that, I want to go and meet Baha'u'llah. Well, really, why you do not want to meet Baha'u'llah while you are here? Baha'u'llah is everywhere, and Baha'u'llah is nowhere, because Baha'u'llah is not contingent. Baha'u'llah is eternal reality. Baha'u'llah is never born. Baha'u'llah shall never die. Do you see that? Detachment means, do you know, you drive a car. Have you seen it when you sit in the car? You feel so powerful. Everybody looks at your car. When you come out of your car, they bow at you. Wow. They look at your clothes. They look at your car. But if you were like me, just driving, riding on a donkey, nobody pays attention to my donkey. Therefore, they do not pay attention to me. Baha'u'llah. Habib, ignorant, be enlightened. That car is exactly like a donkey, is worse than a donkey. Donkey is an animal kingdom, has more respect. That car is to move you from one place to the next. Do not get attached to the means. The house is good. The car is good. The money is good. As long as you do not define yourself by them and the people do not respect you because of them, that is called detachment. Otherwise, if you do not have money, they do not call you detached, my friend. They call you poor. Detachment means to have it, but do not lose sight of its objective. This is why Baha'u'llah praises the rich in power. When you are an educator, when you are a teacher, you have power, you are rich. But you have to be detached from the names. So when he says detached from the kingdom of names, means that you don't do it because of personality. You do not do it because you want to worship the lambs or you become idol worshippers. When he says detach from the next world, he says do things because they are right, they are moral, regardless of whether you go to heaven or hell. Heaven is just doing the act, which is humanistic, which is universal. So as you can see, on one hand, we need to be detached, and we always have to be in the world. Do you know? Don't think by secluding yourself, going into mountains, then you are spiritual. No, don't. I am living in a village called Los Angeles. Many people say, leave Los Angeles, New York, you're poison. Oh, really? Where should I go? Go somewhere that are less people, less challenges. Now, I agree, I should not boss anybody, but I have to ask question. But Los Angeles is a beautiful place to show you who you are, gives you all the opportunity, gives you the choice to be a corrupt person or a distinguished moral person. If you want to know somebody, I am a chaste person. Oh, really? Oh, wow, good. If you're a chaste person, come to Los Angeles and live in Los Angeles. What that I mean is, do not try to be low in thinking. Place doesn't define you. Events doesn't define you. What other people do or say do not define you. How you respond to it is important. Do not be passive to the world. Do not be aggressive towards the world. Do not try to be defensive. Be someone who relates to the world and uses the world to bring it to a better place than it is yesterday. That is called true detachment. Detachment means detachment from my thinking about how the world should be. Detachment means from my ideologies, my prejudices. But we have to be focused on good in order to forsake evil. Baha'u'llah, Tablet of Wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you so much again for that wonderful talk. Next week, our speaker will be Dr. Kambiz Etemad, who will be speaking on staying positive in the face of world events. And again, these talks occur every Saturday at noon Eastern Time, so please invite your friends and family. And if you would like to be on the weekly mailing list for these events, please fill out the contact form that we put in the chat. And we also put it in the description box of our YouTube videos. Have a great week and see you all next Saturday.